The next one, we have actually invited the Bhikkhunis for this session. So it's going to be a panel discussion. So the title of this segment is called Nuns in the Making, or Bhikkhunis in the Making, Stories of Growth and Greed. Gaia, can you? Okay, so we have Ajahn Chanda representing Anukampa. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So at least we have you joining live in person. And then representing Dhammsara is Venerable Vimutti. And just so that you all know who are actually here, maybe I'll just introduce. Sorry, it's a bit late in the day when I'm doing this introduction. So I'll start with the nuns. Venerable Nadi. I'm like testing my memory because I know their lay name. Venerable Pamochana. Venerable Vimala. Venerable Vimutti. Ajahn Chanda. Ajahn Brahm. Lucky I didn't get that wrong. Ajahn Brahmali and then Venerable Siti Bhutto. Okay. All right, so we've got the Santi nuns. Hello, are you all on the screen? Very good. And what about the Newbury? I can't see who has joined. Oh, for, okay, Newbury? So, Newbury, I think, Ayah Upeka? Where is she? Oh, that's her. Ayah Upeka and Ayah Santa, that's the two of them. And I think Ayah Upeka also extended the invitation to her two other nuns, Ayah Sankapa and Ayah Sunyata, and they are in Singapore. They are together with the Buddhist Fellowship Group. Okay? And we also have Ajahn Munisara. So she managed to get Wi-Fi. So she'll be joining this. So we can kind of like switch the questions, yeah? Okay, all right, thank you. Am I missing anyone else? Okay, I've got everyone. So thank you everyone for joining this segment. So I've got a series of questions. I already sent it to the nuns. But what I'll do is that I will just pick a few questions to ask because I don't think we would have time to cover all the questions. And I will kind of like, call upon each of the monastery to answer that question. So I will go by alphabetical order, Anukampa, then Dhammsara, Newbury, Santi. And then next question, Dhammsara will answer first, yeah? Okay, ready? It's not too bad. Ajahn Chanda, I'm going to start with, so okay, my first question, and I'll have Anukampa to answer that first. Okay, so the first question is, how has Ajahn Brahm's support influenced your journey as a bhikkhuni?
Radically.
I'm a radical.
Yeah, of course you are. That's one of your main qualities, Ajahn. So it's a long story if I tell the whole story, but I was already ordained in Myanmar in 2006, and I came across Ajahn Brahm's teachings just on a little cassette that I was having in my little forest kuti. And when I heard the teachings, there was so much power to them. I could sense that they were coming from a depth of experience. And at that time, I was meditating a lot and being very aware throughout the day, but something was lacking in the practice. And I think just the emphasis on kindness and also the depth of the teachings really triggered something in me. And I had this sense that this was coming from a very deep place. So after a few years, in fact, a few months, I think, I left Myanmar and I went in search of this person, Ajahn Brahm, who I knew nothing about. And it was actually when I heard that you'd ordained bhikkhunis that I thought, oh, maybe this is something important. Because until then, I hadn't really thought about it. I was very happy and content living a nun's life in Myanmar. And I had all the conditions to do so. But when I heard that this person, who's obviously got very deep experience, has ordained Bhikkhunis, I got interested. And so I left Myanmar and went to Germany, where I sat on a retreat with Ajahn Brahm, which you may or may not remember. But again, there was that combination of really profound teachings and the humor as well. And although I'd heard a lot of deep Dhamma in Myanmar and in India for decades, something about your conviction when you spoke about cessation, when you spoke about deep jhanas, really literally shook me. And it seemed to me that a deeper process was set in place. So I went over to Australia, and a couple of years later, it wasn't quite that simple. I actually had nowhere to live for 2 years. But eventually I got over here and joined the Dhammsara nonce community for about 3 years before Ajahn Brahm asked me to start a monastery in England. And I have to say, you were the only person who could get me to go back to England because I left that place sort of 20 years earlier and had lived in Asia most of my life. And I think the depth of faith that I had, in a true Kalyana Mitta who, I knew over time and had observed really closely, not only in their practice, but in your conduct as well. It gave me the confidence to take this leap and accept the invitation to start a monastery in England. So, in a sense, it was something I would have never done. I wasn't interested in leading or teaching, and certainly not ever having a microphone in front of me and people in front of me. That was terrifying to me. But it was an opportunity to express my gratitude for everything I'd received from my teacher, from Ajahn Brahm. And I knew that you'd be there to support me. And I think, the kind of support I received was always encouraging, but never undermining in any way. There was a sense that I was allowed to make mistakes. I was allowed to kind of figure things out for myself. I was given the space to do that. But I knew that if anything went wrong or I needed advice, Ajahn Brahm would always be there. And you were there for the last 9 years throughout this journey of establishing a monastery from nothing. We weren't invited by an established trust. There wasn't a community who were particularly eager to have bhikkhunis because they already have the dual sangha, but they have monks and siladhara, not bhikkhunis in England. And the siladhara are essentially novice nuns, but they take about 150 precepts which are based on the full ordination. And because of that, they live a life that's so close to the bhikkhuni lifestyle, and yet they don't have the actual ordination endorsed by the Buddha. So this means that they're not recognized as true members of the Sangha, and they are confined to the monasteries that ordain them. Their ordination is not recognized outside those places. And it also means that they can't ordain their own nuns, so they don't have autonomy around creating a community for themselves. Whereas bhikkhunis have that. We can not only have the full ordination, which is in a sense our inheritance from the Buddha, but we also, when we reach a certain level of reigns, when we've been in the robes for about 12 years, we can ordain other bhikkhunis. So we can create our own monasteries and communities in a way that I guess a woman's wisdom can really come through and can shine. So because it's different, it is different. And so the influence has been vast, and I guess one big factor in the last 9 years has just been enabling me to have much more confidence to be able to share the Dhamma, not only out of gratitude, for what I've received, but also as a way to pay it forward. Ajahn was saying, that the best thing we can do is to practice deeply, but also to share what we know, what we understand. And it has completely transformed my life. And even feeling very marginalized in England has had its gifts because I understand much more deeply the suffering of marginalization, and that engenders a sense of compassion that I want to make sure I don't replicate those systems of discrimination, and I want to create a community that's very inclusive. And I think we've succeeded in that, and this is largely due to your ethics and constant support and leadership. And compassion as well. So, it's the biggest blessing in my life to meet such a Kalyana Mitta. And I was kind of touched this morning when you said that Ajahn Chah, in a sense, had more influence on you than the Buddha, because I feel that way too. It's an example of the living Dhamma. And of course, without the Buddha, none of us would be here. You know, as Bhikkhunis, our immediate predecessors are the Arahat Bhikkhunis of the Buddha's day, right? And the Bhikkhuni Sangha that's starting now. But, you know, to have a representative in the human form that's accessible. Because the other thing I remember is when I first met you, I'm kind of trembling in awe, because I knew that I was meeting, you know, the real deal. And I was kind of overcome with saddha, with devotion. But Ajahn Brahm quickly kind of got me out of that by joking around with me and putting me on the spot and kind of making me blush, but in ways that were sweet. Like in ways that were not, you know, to kind of make me feel humiliated, but just to lighten me up in a way. And that meant that I could ask questions, and I think that's, you know, part of the reason for the bad jokes, or the dad jokes, or the bad dad jokes. Is so that we have the confidence to ask whatever we want to ask, even if it seems stupid or we think it's stupid. You know, you've always told us there's no such thing as a bad question or a stupid question. And I feel I can go to you with absolutely anything. And that does engender a sense of deep trust and honesty and mutual respect. One last thing is that I've been really touched when I've come to you, you know, kind of not knowing really which step to take next, you know, in states of despair and doubt and not knowing if I can continue because there's no support or whatever. And you've looked at me and said, you have my trust and respect. And that is just so touching, you know, to be told that even in your kind of lowest state of mind, somebody you respect so highly respects and trusts you, and you think, you're respecting these khandhas in this state, and that is kind of testament to you seeing the potential in every human being for awakening, and it's deeply touching, you know, deeply touching and healing too. So thank you, Ajahn, for showing us we can all follow this path, and we have a good chance with a Kalyanamitta like you to keep going all the way to the end. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I invite she's got
Is it on? That's on?
The question is, how has Ajahn Brahm's support influenced your journey as a bhikkhuni or as a nun bhikkhuni?
Okay. Does it mean leading up to, or does it mean, or both, or whatever? Okay. Gosh, in every possible way. Well, just the fact that this place is here, just the fact that you're all here, and that there were people that wanted to set up a place for me at Dana time. Just the fact that Dhammsara exists, that Ajahn Hasapanya was able to be my Pavatini in January, that I have robes that my parents wore at my ordination, every aspect of my life. The Dhamma, that how I see the Dhamma, how I see practice. Even now, just sitting here, suddenly feeling deeply anxious, suddenly realizing that I wanted to get it right. And remembering Ajahn Brahm saying how he once had waves and waves of fear coming over him just before giving a talk. And he suddenly decided he was going to have fun. And I thought, well, that's not really working for me, but something else that he said did come up. I thought, I can do that. I can do that. I can just be present and accept how I feel. And it's okay. So even just little things every day, how I see people, how I walk from here to there, it just touched every corner of my life. And I would need a book to write down all the ways.
Thank you. 3 sadhus for Venerable Vimmuti. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you. Can I turn over to Newbury? Aya Upeka, would you want to answer the question, or can you say something? We cannot hear you. Aya Upeka from Newbury. We've got 2 Upeka. Yes.
Come back in a little bit. Maybe we can pass it to the other ayahs in Singapore right now.
Okay, you want to invite the Singapore ayah? So, Ayah Sankapa or Ayah Sunyata? Where are you? Are you with Buddhist Fellowship? Okay. Would one of you want to answer the question? The question is, how has Ajahn Brahm's support influenced your journey as a nun? Are they still there? Yeah.
Okay, this is Ayah Sunyata. How has Ajahn Brahm's support influenced my journey as a nun? I think he has made it very easy. I think basically my personal opinion is that I got handed it on a silver platter. And why do I say so? It's because I've heard of the struggles of the nuns in the past, like 20 years ago. They had to fight for ordination. They had to do so many things. It's not just a matter of overcoming their self-doubt, whether their family supports them or not, and things like that. They actually had to find a place to be able to be ordained, find a teacher, and all that. Whereas for me, 20 years later, everything is there. All the infrastructure, the support, the recognition, everything is there. I never had to work as hard for it as all those in the past. And most of it is due to Ajahn Brahm. He made that sacrifice. He set up the infrastructure for it, and I'm very grateful to him for that. Yeah.
Thank you, Ayah
Just because of
Sunyata.
that,
Is Ayah Sankapa saying something? Are we?
Yes, this is Ayya Sang. So I just add to what Ayya Sunyata say. It just because of Ajahn Brahm, we have a place to practice. We can get ordained, and because we have all the guidance from Ajahn Brahm, so we can train and practice under his guidance. And anytime that he come to Newbury, because we don't have a chance to close to him all the time. So every year when he come to us, especially at the COVID time, we have a lot of, like about 10 days with him. And we can observe him, see him as an example for us. And how we can see that he works very selflessly, patiently. And that's how it set the example for me to practice, just like an idol to me.
Thank you, Ayah Sankapa. 3 sadhus to the 2 ayahs. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And thank you, BF, for hosting the 2 nuns so they can join this session. So last but not least, Santi. Who's going to represent Santi for this question? Ayah Karunika? I can't really see.
They can't decide. I think
We can't hear you. I think maybe it's... Are you not close to the mic? Too soft.
They haven't asked the question.
Oh, it's a different question.
Yes.
Is it the same question or a different
It's the same question. Please listen. I was very fortunate. I just visited Santi and Newbury, so I got to know the nuns very well. I love the nuns there. The nuns here too. How has Ajahn Brahm's support influenced your journey as a nun?
How has Ajahn Brahm's support influenced my journey? Well, I have to reiterate what everyone has said so far, in that I also walked into ordination. It was, handed to me on a silver platter as well, just like all of us at Dhammsara, well, all of us later ones at Dhammsara, that we did not have to worry about whether we'd be recognized. We didn't have to worry about whether we have a kuti to live in. We just thought, hey, I might be a nun, and I could. So that is pretty extraordinary now that I have not been at Dhammsara, which I was for like 13 years. I have met Bhikkhunis around the world in all kinds of situations, and there is no doubt that that the conditions we have in Perth are that it just doesn't exist. So yeah, the opportunity to really live the life of a bhikkhuni to its purest, you know, we get to keep our vinaya as accurate, correctly, as to its highest. We have the best teachings. We have the best forests here in Santi to live in. Yeah, if it wasn't for Ajahn Brahm's determination to give women the equal opportunity and putting so much of his life into that, I absolutely would not have what I have today. So that's all I have to say.
Wow.
Three sadhu, 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 sadhu. Thank you, Venerable Upeka or Ajahn Upeka. She's one of the nuns I would call nuns on wheels. So one day she's in Dhammsara, next day she's in Santi, another time she's in Anukampa. So she's like lone a nun kind of thing. All right. So I'm moving to the next question. So we are done with this round. So next question, I will start with Dhammsara first. Maybe I'll invite Ajahn Munisara. So the question is, what practices or teachings have been the most transformative for you on your journey? Can you hear us? Yep.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, good.
Sorry, Lehar, can you say the first part of the question again?
What practices
repeat
or
the question again,
teachings have been the most transformative for you on your journey? What practices or teachings?
What practical teachings?
No, what practices?
Practices or teachings?
Practices or teachings.
Gosh, I mean, that's like assuming there's only like one, which it's kind of countless. But I think, you know, I'll just talk about something that just runs into my mind recently, is because I remember years ago, I think on a Jhana Grove retreat or something during an interview, Ajahn Brahm mentioned Michelle Obama's book. Something to the effect of like, you know, like Michelle Obama, she's like the first lady of the US, and you know, everybody thinks she's so confident, she's got all of it figured out. But in her biography, it says that she actually had a lot of self-doubt and a lack of confidence, you know, growing up Black in America, growing up, and also being the only female in like big law firms and contexts where usually women are in the minority. And so I just had that tucked into the back of my mind. And this just now in Thailand, I was visiting my sister's place, and lo and behold, she had Michelle Obama's book. This is like years after Ajahn Brahm made this comment, but I thought, well, let me read this book. And so I read, I didn't get through it all, but especially the early part of it really resonated with me. I mean, I'm not Black, but I'm a woman. And I really resonated with a lot of things that she was talking about, how when you're in a situation where you're the minority and also people don't really accept you, I'm unlike the other nuns who've spoken today. I didn't have it all handed to me on a silver plate exactly. When I started to think about becoming a nun, I was in Thailand, where like everyone, you know, they're just like, why would you want to ordain as a manchi? You know, like, you just want to cook and clean for the monks? Like, why would you want to do that? And then, so I thought, okay, well, let's look at what other options exist. And when I started to think of becoming a bhikkhuni, so many people just discouraged me, and all sorts of people, you know, lay people, lay women, lay men. Actually, lay men were quite good, but lay women, monks, all sorts of people discouraged me. And so, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm answering a little bit the first question, but it kind of relates to this question. So one pivotal moment, I wrote about this in the ebook, but I'll just mention it briefly now. One pivotal moment was when I was talking to him about women's ordination, I think in the guise of like interviewing from an article, but it's like so obvious I'm thinking about it for myself, right? And And he said, you know, many women like you would like to lead a monastic life. And if they were given even half a chance, they would really flourish. I think he used "you would really flourish." And in that moment, I just felt so supported. I mean, it was like such a different feeling from all the naysaying or the like somewhat supportive, but, you know, protectively, like, you know, discouraging. And it was just upright support. And I feel like he's worked so hard to give us more than half a chance. He's given us a big chance. And I think we are flourishing fine, and I think we will flourish more. So I think that that was really an encouragement. And this is about giving us confidence. It's about, you know, not undermining our confidence at all this like, oh, you know, I don't know if it's going to be right according to Vinayat, I don't know, oh, you poor things, you might lead a very difficult life as a nun. It's like, yeah, you know, Ajahn Brahm told me that. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough as ever. But you will be opening the way for so many women to follow. And so that's always hardened me. And it's given me confidence when everybody else is not giving me confidence. But the thing also about Michelle Obama, what she said was, failure is a feeling long before it becomes an actuality. So what she's pointing to is that what really is the insidious source of failure is all those naysaying voices that say, oh, no, you can't, you shouldn't, oh, you know, better wait, better see, or whatever it is, that's already telling you, you cannot succeed in this. You are not a man. You are just some lowly woman who was not born with the right gender to be able to be ordained properly. So you will fail, you cannot do this. You know, these whispers in the back of your mind, and that becomes an actuality. And even with all of Ajahn Brahm's support, I know these whispers remain in the back of my mind, but they have become much, much more muted and much more easy to disbelieve. And so I think that to have even one person stand in your corner with such unwavering support makes all the difference. But from there, we have to keep working on it. So I think one of the practices that I think Ajahn Brahm has really tried to encourage in us is to believe in ourselves, to have confidence, you know, never to doubt yourself. I mean, he says that, but like it's so easy to say, but you know, it's so hard to do when everybody doubts you. But to have that voice of encouragement and feeling like, yeah, he really does think, even though it seems such a weird idea to me, but yeah, he really thinks we can do it. And so I think that is one of the practices I keep coming back to, is just try to build up that confidence and to you know, grow it in other people, especially the younger nuns who are coming in. That's something we all can really work on. So thank you, Ajahn, for that.
3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Ajahn Munisara. Newbury. Who's going to speak? Ayah Upeka? And
because Ajahn Brahm, Ajahn, if you remember last year, he says, I know I've not ordained you, but why don't you do this? And I told Ajahn the reason why. So Ajah's support and influence has indeed given me a very deep commitment to understand what the essence of the Buddha's teaching is. I'm still trying to explore to see whether I fully understand it. But I think it's better to give Ayah Santa a chance because she idol worships Ajahn. Well, I just want to make it short and sweet and related to what Ajahn Munisara was saying about Michelle Obama with this. This is what I got from Hong Kong. Doing is easy. Thinking is the hard part. Ajahn Brahm. So that helps me a lot along the way. Thank you, Ajahn.
thank you. 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And by the way, the book that you're handed this morning, Ayah Santa is the one behind the book. So thanks, Ayah Santa. Okay, Santi, who's going to speak next? So should I repeat the question? The question is, what practices or teachings have been the most transformative for you on your journey?
Okay, so I can answer this one, speak to this one. So for me, there's been so many teachings, but one of the most helpful ones that I've used pretty much every day is Ajah's teachings on chillax to the max. This has been so very helpful. Even though he used the term more recently, that has been a practice of his for a long time, but more than the words. But in one occasion, I remember after we have completed the Dhammsara building project, our first Bhikkhuni ordination. So for the dual ordination, Ajahn came and many monks and nuns were there. And we were all gathered at the dining hall waiting for the time because we were going to go in a procession and enter the meditation hall. So there was a certain time that we were to do it. So we were just waiting there. And Ajahn was drinking a cup of tea. So then it came to time. And then, for whatever reason, I was the one who went forward and sort of told Ajahn, Ajahn, it's time now. Then he looked at me kindly but firmly and said, you do not disturb an Englishman when he is having a cup of tea. And he continued to drink his cup of tea so slowly. And he was watching, gazing out into the bush because there was the glass windows in front of him. And really relaxed, completely chillaxed, didn't matter. All of us were waiting. There was a big ordination to happen. It doesn't really matter. It isn't anything really important whether we were 5-10 minutes late. And it's so important, such an important thing, especially for me because I'm so always eager to get there, get on time, hurrying everybody up. But this was like, he just sat there and just drank that cup of tea. So I was in a corner just watching from a distance. And that really went inside me. It's so deep. So since then, I actually do this. Pretty much every day in my kuti, I would sit and drink, whether it's a cup of tea or hot water, anything, and take time just to watch. The other thing is watching the trees grow. So similar kind of thing. So I just sit and chillax, and it's so very helpful. So for my character and for the things, just to really unwind and re-energize, this has been a very powerful teaching. I remember arguing with Ajahn Brahm about where did the Buddha say to relax and chillax? Buddha never said. Buddha said, Chandan janeti vayamati viryagarabati chittam pagganhati padhati, like exert energy like anything. You are not telling, where was that teaching? But then it took me years to realize how powerful this is for us in the modern day to first learn to unwind before we actually exert our mind. We are not ready. So that was one occasion, but another really deep one that was helpful for me was, I'm also quite famous for always going to ask questions, brilliant questions. Sometimes Ajahn tries to run away from the other door when he sees me coming, or here comes trouble. So anyway, one of those days, this was during when I was on retreat, and just in Bodhinyana, and I had an interview time to go upstairs in the evening. So I had all these questions, to ask, my opportunity to ask. So I went there, and Ajahn was, slouched on his, big cushion, completely, relaxed, completely chillaxed. But he was so still, like so peaceful. And my whole mind became very peaceful as well. All of my questions just disappeared. Rarely happens, but it was a really powerful moment for me. Like at that time, rather than asking all of those questions, just being in that really quiet time, it was really quiet in the evening. Ajahn may have come out of a good meditation, I don't know, but was really peaceful. So it was much worthwhile just experiencing that peace and the way he was sitting, the chillaxed kind of feeling. Every time I remember that, it inclines my mind to relax, let go, and become peaceful. So that has probably been the most helpful for me among so many other teachings. Thank you, Ajahn. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ajahn Brahm, next time you come to me, or maybe tomorrow, you ask, Leha, have you done the insurance for the new property yet? I'm like, chillax. Okay, so Ajahn Chanda?
Okay. Turn it around. Okay. So again, so many teachings, but I think maybe I'll just emphasize a couple. One of the main ones, I think, for me was this shift from putting so much attention on what I was aware of in the meditation, whether it be the breath or the sensations in the body or even the metta practice, right? We can make the person we're giving loving kindness to like the sole focus of our awareness, and taking away the importance from the object and putting it on that place between this so-called observer and the object, and seeing what's in between the two. I think for me this has been a huge change in the practice. And it is the Buddha's teaching on right intention. It's the second factor of the Eightfold Path, you know, that whatever we do from a motivation of kindness, with compassion and with this sense of letting things be. I prefer that than letting go, because letting be is that sense of acceptance. And the gentleness as well. So really trying to infuse the awareness, if you like, with those qualities, I have found makes a massive difference. And I'll just give you one example from years ago, when I was actually struggling with an asthma attack. And this is not advised, okay? So this is not like anything your doctor would approve of. But I had my inhaler by my side, and I knew that I was having quite a severe asthma attack, and it was hard to get my breath. So I was kind of doing my old practice, observing the feelings, observing the sensations in the body. And it was taking hours and hours. I was thinking, never mind, just be patient, observe the feelings. You know, finally it's going to abate. But it wasn't getting any better. And at some point I just realized that whenever I would come to the chest, which was obviously the place that felt really constricted and would trigger a sense of fear, I would think I was being aware of it, but there was a resistance there. And it was that resistance that was perpetuating the attack. And as soon as I realized that, and I could just allow those feelings to be and offer them compassion, the whole thing cleared, almost like in an instant. And it was as though like oxygen came throughout my entire body. And the asthma attack completely disappeared. And this is physical, right? This is physical health. But if we do the same thing to our minds, it can have a similar effect. But I think for me, the key has been realizing how much I have in the past negotiated. If I practice metta, then I'll feel better. Or if I practice, breath meditation, then I'll get peaceful. Instead of having those goals, just practicing for the love of it, you know, practicing to develop compassion, practicing it to make peace, not to get peace. It's a very different thing. So we make peace with whatever's there, and then the resulting experience will gradually move towards peace. So I think that for me is really beautiful, because it means that every moment of our practice counts, you know, because there's no moment when we can't be kind or kinder, right? There's so many degrees of kindness and gentleness. And I notice that, you know, I can always be a bit more gentle. I can be very kind, that comes quite naturally to me, but the gentleness, that sense of trying to push things, you know, forward, that is something I can continue to work on. And yeah, I mean, being around you, Ajahn, I notice that you're gentle all the time with all kinds of beings, even if they're kind of really confrontational, you know, or difficult to handle by most people's standards. Ajahn Brahm is always kind and always incredibly gentle and unobtrusive. Even the way you walk into a monastery, you know, you visited me so many times in England. Some people come in, especially monks, and it's as though, oh, this is one of my monasteries, and they walk in, you know, perfectly innocently, and help themselves to whatever's there, and it's like, oh, okay, I mean, it is a Bhikkhuni monastery, but okay, be at home, you know. And then over time, they kind of realize, okay, it's quite nice to listen to Bhikkhunis as well. But Ajahn Brahm, when you come in, you're like, what do you want me to do? Where should I sit? Please take the lead, you know. No, Ajahn, you have to do the chanting. No, you know, it's a Bhikkhuni place. So that sense of gentleness and humility, I suppose, that's something I can really take a lot of inspiration from. And then I guess the other, I mean, we're talking now just a couple of things, because otherwise it would take the whole entire session for each of us to say. But one of the other really important things, I think, for my practice has been the emphasis on happiness, and the fact that it's not just okay, but it's actually encouraged to feel happiness, and to feel the kind of happiness that takes us inside and away from the sensual world. And what I really love in the Buddha's teachings is this teaching, I think, which one is it? It's not the Avidya Sutta. I think it's the volition, Chaitana Sutta in the Anguttaras, and Ajahn Brahmali will know, which is where they say that happiness can start with suffering. It can start from suffering. And if you think about it, the suffering is right view, right? It's the Buddha's teaching on the Four Noble Truths. Sorry? Upanisa. Yeah, Upanisa Sutta. So we can actually embrace our suffering, and if we do that with a sense of right view, which means we don't take it personally, we have compassion towards it, we understand that this is the nature of life and it's universal, then a certain confidence can arise in the teachings. And that confidence is already offering us a great deal of happiness and hope. So for me, this has been a game changer, just to realize that there can be a meaning to suffering. And when we hear the Buddha's teachings, he's offering us a way out. And from there, just so much happiness ensues. It starts with just the happiness of daily life, like living a life with more gratitude, with more kindness. And then when you do sit to meditate, more virtue, of course, and when you sit to meditate, it's so much easier to feel the happiness of the mind, and just to allow that happiness to kind of take you inside and to start to trust it, to start to rest in it, and allow this process to unfold. So I think for me, being given permission to be happy and not to just think that the path is like a ton of work, or that I have to deserve that happiness somehow by being the perfect non. Because that can be a trap in monastic life, like everything else. It's like, okay, now I'm on the path to enlightenment. I have to get it right, I can't make any mistake. I've got to observe the Vinaya 100% perfectly. But perfectly just means being real. You make mistakes. You acknowledge your mistake. You ask forgiveness if it's possible to do that, especially from a great Kalyanamitta or a fellow Bhikkhuni. And you forgive yourself, you carry on, you're a human being. So, yeah, and you deserve happiness. Right now. Can you imagine? So I think these are two really important teachings that I've learned, and shifts from my previous practice. Yeah.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so next question. And we will start with Newbury. How do you inspire or support other women considering ordination or the monastic path? So how do you inspire or support other women considering ordination or the monastic path? Aya Upeka?
Okay, how do I inspire? Hopefully I can just be conducting myself well, knowledgeable in Dhamma Vinaya, listening my meditation, being kind to everyone who comes to me. All these teachings that stems from the qualities of the heart, with selfless service to others, and with forgiving. I think all this kind of behavior and conduct actually does sort of impressions on others that after applying the Buddha's teachings into our life, we can become someone Ajahn always described as to be kind, gentle, and also to be always in service for others. So this is how I try my best. I'm not there yet, but Ajahn has really made me how to open the door of my heart, even for those who may not be kind to me. Yeah, this is how I hope I can.
Aya, sorry to interrupt. I think we, is that us or is that on her side? Oh, okay. Sorry, Aya, do you want to try again? Because it's not, can the rest actually hear her? Is that just us? No? Okay. So maybe we're not hearing you very well.
It's okay. I may be too soft because
Yes, okay, good
I
now.
think because of the recent cough that I was having, my throat
Okay.
is still not functioning well.
Yeah,
Can I
it's good
pass
now.
it to Ayah Santa? Yeah. No. Did I impress you? Did I did I influence you to become a nun?
Okay, for me to summarize what Aya was saying, I will use the same bag again. So now this time, make peace, be kind, be gentle, Ajahn Brahm. So that summarizes what Ayo Becca was trying to say. Thank you.
Ayah Santa, do you have a collection of bags? Ayah Upeka, do you run a merchandise shop in Newbury? I didn't see that last time when I was there. Thank you. So, so maybe I'll move on to Santi. So how do you inspire or support other women considering ordination on the monastic path?
Okay, so this is Venerable Prasanna.
Yep.
So I hope as a visibly non-binary monastic and part of Rainbody that I can be here to supply, to kind of inspire and support people of all genders to be able to ordain. And I'm so appreciative of Ajahn Brahm for supporting the LGBTQ community as well, always being outspoken and supporting the queer community. And so just by being visible and keeping going with my practice, I hope that I can support women and people of all other genders as well to practice and have the aspiration to ordain.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Venerable Pasana. So next, can I ask, am I going back to Dhammsara? Vimuti? Thank you. I think you need to turn on the mic. It's not on yet. No? Maybe use this one.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm a baby bhikkhuni, so I need support. So let's get that clear first. But I think what I've learned from what I've seen of how Ajahn Brahm operates and from listening to his teachings for over 30 years, and trying to put them into practice in my life and falling over flat on my face a lot, is to leave people alone, and not think that I have the answers. You know, I know a few people who have the idea of wanting to ordain, or people that come and stay at our monastery for 3 months or a few weeks and have this idea that they want to ordain. And my instinct is to go, do it now. You might die tomorrow, and Ajahn Brahm's probably not going to be around in our next lives, because he's probably either going to be in a jhana realm or nowhere at all. So that's my response. Please ordain. It's really the right thing to do. But, you know, that's not going to work, and everybody's path is different. Everybody's journey is different. And I've learned so many things from Ajahn Brahm, and one of them is just to let things be and let people be. And just be there if they want to come and talk to me. I hope. I'm one of those people that tends to disappear. If there's no reason for me to hang around with my meal afterwards in the afternoon, I won't. But I hope I'm friendly and approachable, and if people want to talk to me, I'm perfectly happy to have a conversation with people. But I think just not being controlling and not thinking that I have the answers, and being kind more than anything, you know. And what does that mean, to be kind? If I'm being controlling, I'm not being kind at all, just being bossy. So letting people find their way, and hopefully by how I live, I hope I can set a good example by my speech, not just talking about being gentle and kind, but for me that's like a really important thing, how I speak. And it's an ongoing work in progress, work of a lifetime, but it's just so interesting and full of challenges and makes you feel really good when you get it right. And I hope I can inspire people with how I speak, because that's where most of our interactions are, or even just visual cues. how we look, how we conduct ourselves, how we are with each other, not wanting to be friends with everyone, basically. That's one of the things I learned after a long... Well, I mean, we all want to be friends with everyone, don't we? That's what you learn in kindergarten, be friends with everyone. But it takes lifetimes to figure out how to do that, how to see the good in everyone, which is so central. And I think if you want to inspire people to ordain, then be that kind of nun where you don't just see the good in everyone, but your every word, your every action demonstrates that. You have no cliques or factions. You are not mean in private or in public. And that's what inspires people to ordain. And that's the only thing that I can think to do. I don't want to control anyone, even though I think you should all ordain.
Ajahn Chanda?
I really love what you just shared, Aya, about not controlling and being open. And I think now that we have a monastery in England, it's a beautiful monastery near Oxford, in a rural part of Oxford. There are women coming who are starting to think about the possibility of ordaining. And I think one of my most important roles is, of course, to provide a peaceful place and a place where people can find solitude, but also a sense of community. So I do try to make the place as inclusive as possible and really let people know that they're welcome, whoever they are. I mean, we have on our website as well that, we support members of the LGBTQIA+ community, and, we are committed to inclusivity, but it's a long journey. And I've noticed what a long journey it is, even somewhere like in the BSWA, where everybody's on the same page. It takes time to really develop truly inclusive communities. So for me, I have to be willing to learn. I have to be willing to take a lot of feedback from people who maybe don't have the same privileges as me, and maybe find it even harder than I did, which was hard. It took me 18 years from the time of my sincere practice to have the chance to take full ordination. That's 18 years of really sincere practice, a lot of retreats and service. So I can use some of those privileges to hopefully help people who have less to have an easier time than I did. And I think really this idea of training comes down to what the Buddha taught. So I've learned from Ajahn that, I don't need to train anyone. The Buddha has it there in the Vinaya. He's left it there as his legacy and as our inheritance. So I think as long as people are practicing the Dhamma to the best of their understanding, by referring to the suttas and the Vinaya as well, I don't need to do much. I just need to provide some encouragement, some inspiration, if at all possible. And I guess by being open and transparent, there is one side where we try to model beautiful behavior. We try our best to have wholesome speech, skillful speech, but it's inevitable that that's not going to always happen. So what I try to do is be extremely transparent about my weaknesses. And it's interesting because a lot of people have actually said it's been a relief for them to hear that nuns can feel down. They can feel sad. They can get irritable. It doesn't matter, even if you've been in robes for 20, 30 years, if you're not an anagami, a once returner, you're still going to get irritable and, upset sometimes. So I'm very open about that, and I think that makes people feel that they too can walk on this path. They don't have to be perfect before getting in robes. I guess the other aspect of my life is that I am very inspired, and I hope that comes across, like I have a love for the Dhamma. And I want other people to kind of catch on to that, to get that feel for the suttas and that experience in their practice where they get a sense of this means something deep. This is different from from what the world has to offer. I could say more, but I think I'll stop there because until I'm actually training someone, it's difficult to say. I suppose I feel that as long as people can communicate openly and have a sense of trust and mutual respect, then we can work through anything. I think it's when that communication breaks down that problems start. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, time check. So it's about 3:08, so we can still continue. We'll finish this session at 3:30. Next question, I will start with the ayahs in Santi. So the question is, how has monastic life shaped your understanding of yourself and the world? How has monastic life shaped your understanding of yourself and the world? Who's going to answer this question? Who is the other nun who's there? All right, who's speaking? Huh? Oh, are you like tossing the dice or something? Okay, go for it.
Okay, so, sorry?
Yes, go for it, Ayah.
Okay, okay, so it's not just the monastic life, but more the Buddha's teachings. Is to really, the teaching on conditionality has been exceptionally helpful, and seeing it more and more, understanding, you know, all the stupid things I do and why I do them still. And why all the silly things other people do and why they do these things, you know, sometimes not exactly why, but the thing is that we are conditioned, that idea, like it's not like, you know, to not take things so personally it's been very helpful. And more you live in a community, sometimes large, sometimes small, and not only just the monastic community, you interact with lots of people. So there's many more interactions and different kinds of situations. And I make plenty mistakes. I do stupid things on a daily basis. So how I can still laugh rather than fall down and cry is when I see, you know, yeah, okay, well, yeah, this is coming from the past, stupid habits and things like this. So trying to learn, and hopefully a little bit of wisdom comes in each time I see. And that not blaming myself and trying to not blame other people, and rather just learning from these things because of seeing that conditional nature of all of us. So, of course, during monastic life, you have a lot more time to see, contemplate, and have the kind of right mind frame at times to do this. Because if I was in the busy world, maybe I get carried away and may have not enough time to sort of stop and realize this and get really sucked in with the problems and the sillinesses and beat myself up and get upset at other people's. But I think in this kind of environment, you have more time to reflect like that. So this has been probably one of the most helpful things for me. But there's lots, of course. Yeah.
Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Next, can I invite Ajahn Munisara? Ajahn Munisara, are you there?
Okay, sorry, I'm having difficulty figure out how to use mute and unmute. The question is, how has monastic life shaped my understanding of
yourself and the world?
Myself and the world?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
How has monastic shape? Yeah, I think monastic life or life, I mean, it's kind of both, isn't it? I think that, yeah, it's just helped me to really develop. Yeah, I mean, all these questions are related, right? Like which teaching has both inspired me and what I've learned. It's this whole opening door your heart business. I mean, that's kind of the essence of, I think, all of it in some ways. So learning how to, keep living monastic life and how to, live in communities with all sorts of different people, how to face the different challenges that have come up during my monastic life. It's a lesson in learning how to open the door of my heart to all of it, whatever situation you find yourself in. I find that, like when I was in Thailand, before there was a place that opened up at Dhammsara, I had to learn to love it, It's like the old hippie saying, love the one you're with. Because whenever you're wishing that, I wish it weren't like this, I want it to be like Dhammsara, I want to have more time to meditate, what's all this learning Abhidhamma going on? What is it, It's like, the more I fought it, of course, the more I suffered. And so I just told myself, just play along, what's going on? And so that's really kind of the motto to live monastic life or any life. You just play along with whatever conditions are arising for you at that time. And I've learned that's really all you need to do. Like all this, like gazillions and gazillions of suttas. I mean, I think the heart of the practice is really learning how to open the door of your heart to what's going on in the present moment. And that's something which teaches you a lot about how to accept yourself, but also how to accept other people, how to accept what's going on, situations around you, structures that are. I'm in Thailand now, so I'm back into this idea of thinking, yes, there's not just personal kind ways that we can hurt other people, but like society's structures can cause a lot of suffering too. And but learning how to just play along with it and just understand, like Ajahn or Venerable Kunika said, that it's all conditioned. It's all of it is conditioned. So how can you argue with the product of conditions? They are what they are. And the more that we can accept that, because we know that everything is conditioned, the more we can open the door of our heart to it, the more at ease we will be. And so it's seeing not just ourselves, but also our world as being something that's conditioned, and thus it's not just you have to accept it, it's just like there's nothing else you can do. I mean, it's like, how do you argue with a mountain? It's just a mountain. I think that's what they said about Ajahn Chah. How do you argue with a mountain? That's why nobody ever got offended when he told them off. It's because it's like, how do you argue with a mountain? So this is exactly how I feel. I think the more I live life, period, monastic life is my life, but everybody's life. And the more we learn that, there's nothing to be said. You just accept because there's nothing else to say. There's nothing else you can do. You cannot accept it, and then you're really in the depths of despair. But the moment you can learn to accept it, then the moment a window of ease opens up, and the more you can widen that window, the greater your ease, the less you're suffering. So that's something I'd like to contribute. Thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ajahn Chanda?
Okay, so whilst in many ways I think monastic life in the world can be similar, I think there are certain things about monastic life that have taught me things that maybe I wouldn't have learned in the world. And I think the main one that stands out is, as an alms mendicant, that I depend on the kindness and the gifts of others. And so being a monastic, especially in England, where we're starting something that actually wasn't there, we're starting the Bhikkhuni Sangha, which didn't exist. I've basically had to trust human kindness, human generosity, and so far I'm alive. Even with a very peculiar condition, a gastric condition, where my diet is quite specific and quite tricky at times, it just blows my mind that people will do everything they can to support me. And that just doesn't show that they're kind for kindness' sake. It shows that they're kind because they love the Dhamma and they want to see the Dhamma flourish in the world. So I think it's given me a great deal of faith in the fact that people really do have this wish for truth, for something that gives them hope, and that they also are drawn to people living virtuous lives. People love virtue and they try to develop it in themselves as much as they can. And I guess having encountered so many kinds of people that I would never have come across in lay life, perhaps, in my role at least, it's given me an insight into just how diverse we are, and yet how the human mind is very much the same across cultures, across genders, across race, age, whatever. The human mind is capable of course, deep suffering, but also enormous happiness and enormous kindness and peace. And the only reason that people don't experience happiness and peace all the time is because they make wrong choices. And the wrong choices are conditioned by the way they've grown up, the people they're around, etc., etc. So the importance of wise friendship, community, spiritual friends, good, virtuous friends, whether you're a monastic or a layperson, is really fundamental to whether we can survive and certainly whether we can walk the path of Dhamma. So I guess just to, bring that up in essence, it's, I guess, a feeling that I can't judge anybody because I just don't know what they've been through. I don't know why they are the way they are, but I can assume there's a reason. And also to really trust that everybody really is doing their best. So I think monastic life has given me this even more conviction in the fact that we need kindness to survive and certainly to thrive. Basically, our lives depend on kindness and the goodness of others. So that's amazing, because all of us are here somehow, even no matter what struggles we might have been through in the past, we've still survived. And that's not just through our own efforts, that's due to the kindness of those around us. So that gives me a great deal of respect and hope.
Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Newbury, Ayah Upeka?
May I say something and then hand over to our Singapore sisters, okay?
Sure.
Now, Ajahn Brahm, I really would like to thank you for mentioning this, because if I have not been a monastic, I may never have the chance to listen to this statement that you made during your talks in your rain retreats. You said, we are all part of nature. That intrigues me so deeply because of that statement that you made, Ajahn, and also because you always told us that there's nobody in here, there's nothing in the world that we should get attached to and all those things. That statement that we are all part of nature. I have been trying to understand the teachings through other Mahayana teachings and all that, because I really feel that what Ajahn said in this one statement really shows that the whole world, if I'm part of nature, the whole world is also part of nature, then why do we have so much differences and duality in our perception of things, in our mind and all that? So Ajahn, I really hope that one day I can really speak to you, to explore further about the true meaning of your statement. Thank you so very much for that statement. It really puts me on a deeper journey inwards into my monastic lifestyle, my monastic livelihood. So now, if it's okay with all of you, I'd like to pass the mic over to our Singapore sisters. Yep, thank you so much.
Yep. So Ayah Sangapa or Ayah Sunyata?
Thank you, Ayah Upeka. So this is Ayah Sangapa again. Actually, Ajahn, you give us a lot of mantra. And we are from Melbourne, so the very popular sport, which is AFL. So A stands for acknowledge, F for forgive, L for learn. It's a very meaningful mantra that I can apply to my daily life. Because if, like before, it's very normal for us to make a judgment when things happen to us. It's very instant to come. It's kind of habit, natural mindset. But now I learn how to acknowledge things when things happen. It's good or bad, who knows? So we just acknowledge what happened. Or forgive. Who forgive who? We are not perfect. We make mistakes. So when we make mistake, we ask for forgiveness. When people make mistake, people rude to us, people unkind to us, we forgive them and learn from our mistake, learn from other mistake, other people's mistake also. So it's very useful mantra, Ajahn. And I think it's monastery, we never bored of what happened in the monastery. A lot of things happen in monastery. So that's how we learn to accepting things. We learn how to flexible for things change. And we learn how to solve the problem in the kind way, gentle way, peaceful way. So thank you, Ajahn, for that.
Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. I think we would have time for the last question. It's already 3:25. So I'm going to ask the last question here. And I'll start with Ajahn Chanda. So the question is, are you expecting a different question? Apart from offering dana and financial contributions, what other forms of support would you appreciate from the lay community? I think this is an important question, so that at least the lay community knows how to better support the Bhikkhunis.
Okay. I mean, the first thing that popped to my mind actually is just to practice, to really understand that what you've got in the teachings of the Buddha, in the Dhamma, and in the Sangha is something so precious that we've probably been searching for so many lifetimes. And it doesn't matter if you think you can do it, if you think you're doing well, it just doesn't matter. This is all the self-view. Basically, just keep coming back to the path, time and again. You know, you can't really go wrong. Maybe this is my over-optimism conditioned by Ajahn Brahm, but I do feel that once we've started, we're not going to forget this path. Even if there's long periods of our practice that seem dry or dark or difficult, you know, I've been there. But one thing I've never done is given up. So I would say don't underestimate yourselves and don't underestimate how strong your practice is. Just recently I was with a friend who's a member of the Buddhist Society, dear to many people here, I'm sure. And she didn't think her practice was so deep, but I went to see her in her last weeks. And she was full of gratitude and love. It was just beautiful. At first, she thanked me for coming to see her, and I thought, why are you thanking me? I should thank you. It's a privilege, you know, to see somebody in the last weeks of their life with just this spontaneous sense of love and gratitude for their life. It was such a beautiful thing to see, and I do believe that's possible, and that will happen for each of us who's tried to live a good life, at least tried our best. So first of all, I would say practice. About Bhikkhuni monasteries or about supporting the Sangha in general, please don't always support the big places because they have the facilities that are really great for your practice. You know, the reason they have the facilities is because they've been supported to have those facilities and develop them. So also support the smaller places that are trying to develop those kind of facilities because we need more places. And we need variety, you know, we need different teachers. Of course, there's only one Ajahn Brahm, only one Ajahn Brahmali, only one Venerable Vimutti, etc., and all the other wonderful nuns here. There's only one of each of us. But there are many more teachers, bhikkhunis, bhikkhus who can teach. But we don't have the places, we don't have the support. So see if you can always offer to not just monks, but also bhikkhunis, and maybe some of the places that are newer financially. But you said apart from that, right? So other ways, apart from your practice, hopefully leading to letting go and coming to live in the monastery, is to, deepen that aspiration to take your practice deeper, to come and serve. This is such an important part of the path, and one thing my first teacher, Goenka, taught me, it's in his 10-day discourses when you go to a 10-day retreat, he says you never measure progress by some idea of your meditation, you know. Even if you're getting into jhanas, even if you're getting into really deep stuff, that's not how you measure progress on the path. There are only two ways to measure it, or two really good ways, and that is a sense of gratitude and a feeling to serve others without expecting anything in return. And I really took that to heart, in those first retreats, because what's the point of our practice unless it is developing those feelings of compassion and that wish to help others? I think Ajahn said earlier that, when you practiced and the deeper your practice went, the more you feel like you can't keep it to yourself. It's impossible to do that. You just want to share that with everybody. So if there are teachers who are saying, oh, you don't need to ordain bhikkhunis, bhikkhuni ordination is not important, to me, something must be missing in the practice. I have never felt that I only want to share, the benefits of the practice with one type of person. I've always felt that I want to share it with all beings, every kind of being, not even just human beings. So try to make sure that the places you support are inclusive and support them also through service. Go and stay in the monasteries and ask what's needed and see if you can really lend a hand. See if you can free up, especially the Bhikkhuni Sangha, from doing so much hard work. I'm not going to complain, but I'm just going to say that I work from 7 in the morning, being engaged with others, pretty much until 11 o'clock at night when I'm not here, which is why I come for my rains. And this is every day. I try to have a day off on a Tuesday, but usually that's when I kind of try and do health stuff and say hello to my family and things like this. So I'm not getting nearly enough solitude or time to myself. And the way to solve that is to have people coming and staying, or people serving from a distance, so you can get involved that way too. And in the case of our monastery, you can actually offer dana, food dana, online. So this is one of the wonders of modern society, and something that we innovated during the COVID pandemic, that people can actually order supermarket shopping or a delivery and send it online. Order it online and then send it through the local kind of delivery routes. So there's many ways to be involved. And lastly, I think, just to pull together, because it's not only you and the Sangha. What I've noticed gives me a lot of joy is seeing that people don't only come to the monastery to meet me, they come to meet each other at this stage. And there's a beautiful sense of community developing, and some of them, like my treasurer, she said to me, I need this community for my practice to really develop, the practice with deep roots, because we're going to go through ups and downs, and sometimes we need to ask help. So I think Ajahn Brahms told me also, just don't be afraid to ask for help, because I think sometimes we're conditioned to think we've got to do everything ourselves. But if you actually are able to receive some support, then your life is enriched, and the person who wishes to give support feels very happy about that. So we need each other. So just get involved in whatever way you can and find places that are welcoming, accepting, and give you that sense of respect. Yeah.
Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. As she was talking, I was like, she's in UK, that's fine. And then she said, you could do this online thing. So did y'all remember what she said? What support she needs? So it doesn't matter where the bhikkhunis are, we should try our best to support them.
Can I just say that you can find us online? It's www.anukampaproject.org. Anukampa means compassion, and it's just spelt the way it sounds, Anukampa. So out of compassion, get involved. Compassion for yourself as well.
Thank you. All right, can I invite Venerable Vimutti?
Okay, so it's about what unusual kinds of support that you can, well, not unusual, not financial, not dana.
Yeah,
that kind
just
of thing.
what would you appreciate from the lay community
Okay.
besides dana and financial support?
Funnily enough, this morning I was having a conversation with Auntie Chaitasi about something that is relevant to this. Auntie Chaitasi was asking about, what were you asking about, Auntie? About the Vinaya and the Patimokkha and all this kind of thing. And I was saying how I'm still learning. I have a lot to learn. But it's reminded me of a story from one of the rules in the Patimokkha, one of the origin stories, and Ajahn Brahmali can correct me if I get anything wrong, please. But it's a story of some bad monks. And the people in the village didn't know a good monk from a bad monk, and so they thought the bad monks were really friendly and nice and easy to get along with and approachable and always saying, you know, just being jovial and this kind of thing. And then a good monk came to the village, and the people didn't know this was a good monk. He kept his head down, he walked quietly, he didn't seem particularly friendly. They thought he was very sour-faced and boring, and they didn't give him any food. But luckily he came to the home of someone who did know what a good monk was, and that person gave them some food and said, look, there's a real problem in this place, in this town. These monks have really taken over. They've corrupted the families here. Everybody's, you know, their virtue's really sliding. There's no sense of Dharma practice. I'm ad-libbing now, but you get the idea. So I was saying to Auntie Chaithsi that in the time of the Buddha, the lay people didn't just know what the monks' and nuns' rules were. They were partially responsible for those rules coming into existence, because they would complain if the nuns or the monks would ask inappropriately for things or cause harm to plants or whatever it was. I can't remember now. I'm totally not an expert. But they knew what made a good monastic. And today, can you guys tell me something about the Vinaya? What makes a good monastic? Or how much do you know about it? I think it would be really helpful if a lay community knew something more about the nuns' rules and the monks' rules. So when you come, you know, if you see people looking very unfriendly on the Pindapat line, maybe they're just feeling very quiet, and you can support them to just be very quiet. Or if you come and stay and you get to know the monks and the nuns, you know, maybe you can ask some questions why we do some really weird things. When I first went to stay at Dhammsara, I was like, why are they talking in these really weird ways? Because, you know, you're not supposed to directly... for some things, you're not supposed to use direct speech in asking for certain things, because you're not supposed to be, you know, bossy and commanding and controlling and this kind of thing, which is good. That's good for practice, right? So I was like, why are they talking like this? Just tell me what you want. You know, so it's only after I did Ajahn Maniswara's Vinaya class that I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. So it's helpful if you'll know something more about that. And Ajahn Brahmali's Vinaya translations are available for free on Sutta Central. So they're very readable, and he's very happy to have feedback about errors in them. So there you go.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ajahn Brahmali was trying to keep very quiet, you know? He's like, nothing to do with me. Okay, can I next invite the nuns from Newbury? Ayah Upeka, Ayah Santa?
Ayah Sunyata, please.
Sunyata? Ayah Sunyata?
Yeah, I think this is quite a difficult question, in the sense that I think financial support and dana, those are mostly cover the 4 requisites already, so I shouldn't be a very demanding nun. But I think what would be very helpful is also support in our Vinaya practices. So for example, like we need people to offer food to us, because we can't take food by ourselves unless it's offered. So things like that, little things like, so that we can be purer in our practice. This is, perhaps something that I would very much appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, I think, so can I turn over to Santi? I think what you need is someone to do the driving for you, isn't it, Ayah Karunika? That's what we were doing when we went to Santi.
Yeah, whenever Kantika will answer, and then I will say a few words afterwards.
So I already feel just incredibly inspired by our lay community. I wasn't brought up a Buddhist, but I'm always just completely overwhelmed by the support and the generosity of the lay community. It brings me a lot of joy. So yeah, it's hard to sort of think of any other ways that they could support us other than dana and financially. But obviously volunteering is a really good way that you can support the monasteries. The volunteers provide like the backbone of all the stuff, yeah, like the driving, offering food. Today we were making some stairs, so like upgrading the infrastructure at the monastery. So yeah, volunteering is a really wonderful way that people can help us.
And what I would like to add is also good feedback. Yeah, good, honest feedback from the lay community is incredibly helpful, because sometimes lay people always say, oh, you're so good, you're so wonderful. But it is also nice to hear sometimes if we did something wrong, if we made some mistakes or something that they thought isn't really okay, to check and ask and help us so that we can actually do things better. And because sometimes we can't see. So not to only just say the good and elevate us, but also to put us in balance and give good feedback, but also giving a bit of benefit of doubt, not to like so strongly like judge, because when we put on robes, you know, we get projected all kinds of things. Either they are fully enlightened or they are completely scallywag. Or things like that. But people change over time. So it's nice to sort of have that open mind and give that kind of support when you approach monastics, not to like judge them, and just instead have an open mind and see and receive how you can help. But you know, thank you, Venerable Vimukti, about the Vinaya, like learning Vinaya and helping us and also catch us when we make mistakes, because sometimes this can happen because of lapse of mindfulness. But it is really helpful, good feedback, and also good friendship, because this is also another thing that is an incredible support for us. Yeah, having lay people's kindness, friendship, and like Venerable Kantika said, also their own practice. It also inspires, because sometimes lay people say when they come there and they see the monastics, it's really inspiring. But for us as well, when we see the lay people in their busy lives, sometimes with very stressful jobs and kids and everything, still taking the time to meditate and put in the, you know, energy to practice, sometimes really inspires us. So doing your own practice is also a really nice way to support us as well, something that you sometimes don't think about, but it is also a good support. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So I think there's one consistent message from the nuns. And what it is? Practice. Do we hear that loud and clear? Practice. Okay. So we've come to the end of this segment. We are 10 minutes overrun. Before we end this, Ajahn Chanda has a request, and we've not told the nuns about it. We'll want everyone to join. Ajahn Chanda, you want to say something about what you're planning to do?
If that's okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to chant a blessing for Ajahn Brahm. I know he gets a lot of blessings.
Can all the nuns join in?
They can, but it's a certain blessing. I don't know if you know it. It's a Burmese blessing.
Burmese blessing? Okay.
Yeah, actually, Venerable Upeka knows it. You can chant. Or will it mess up the Zoom? Will it mess up the Zoom? Try, Venerable. Because I'm on live. You might be able to do it. Anyway, I just wanted to offer this, because I think Ajahn just gives and gives and gives. And even today, when you asked Ajahn, like, what can other people do to serve and support you, you said do less for themselves. Just, you encouraged us to do less. Yeah. And that's just the selflessness. But actually, we want to support you somehow. And you give so much, and we feel like we can't really give much back. I mean, it's like you once said, giving metta to you is like giving a pound to a millionaire. It's pretty much, he doesn't need a pound, you know, he's got 1 million quid. So anyway, never mind. But I think that I would like to chant this anyway and just send metta to you and to all beings, because you are one among all beings. Sabbe sata, sabbe pana, sabbe Sabbe Bhuta, Sabbe Pukala, Sabbe Atabhawa Pariyapana, Sabba Itio, Sabbe Purisa, Sabbe Ariya, Sabbe Anariya, Sabbe Deva, Sabbe Manusa, Sabbe Viniparika, Aweva Hontu, Abhyapaja Hontu, Aniga Hontu, Sukhiyatanam Pariharantu, Dukkha Munjantu, Yadalada Sampatito, Mawe Gachantu, Kamasaka. So 3 big sadhus. You've got to give it everything. No, that's just a practice, okay? That's not the real thing, okay? You got to give it everything. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Ajahn.